The Old Testament has some very strange characters, from kings who seem like they're all awful to prophets who seem depressed constantly. It's easy to gloss over and not care about some of the more mysterious parts. But today I want to look at a very interesting character who shows up again and again throughout the Old Testament. He is most often referred to as the angel of the Lord, but we will soon learn that he has a lot of names, which he keeps a close hand on. He may be the most mysterious person of all time, leading everyone who hears about him to make a decision. Who do you say that I am? Today we're going to count down the top 5 most surprising times that this elusive person appears in the Old Testament, and what that means for us today. Starting off at number 5, Samson's a story that I've always loved. It's basically the closest the Bible gets to a superhero, and his kryptonite is women. So I don't know who can't relate to that. But I love how even at his lowest, God does not abandon him and gives him his strength back for one last feat. But we're going to talk about before he was born, because God visited his parents. In Judges 13:9-20, the angel of the Lord appears to Manoah's wife and tells her of the child that she will bear. When Manoah asks the angel his name, he responds with, "Why do you ask my name, seeing it is secret?" But some translations say, "seeing it is wonderful." After this helpful answer, he ascends in a flame of the altar they make for God, and Manoah realizes that they just were face to face with God. He's worried that they are going to die, but his wife reassures him that the angel accepted a burnt offering and a meat offering and has showed them all these things to take care of their child and raise him well. For number 4, we're looking at the most densely packed book of wisdom in the Bible, Proverbs. Proverbs 30 is where a man named Agur takes over, and he reassures us that he is reliable by saying that he is more brutish than any man, not having the understanding of a man, not knowing anything holy, or having learned wisdom. So after those reassuring words, he goes on to describe what only God can do. Who has ascended into heaven or descended? Who has gathered the winds in his fists? Who has bound the waters in a garment? Who has established all the ends of the earth? What is his name, and what is his son's name, if you can tell? Wait, what is his son's name? That's kind of odd to throw in there, but don't worry, it's never addressed again, so we can move on to number 3. Perhaps the most startling phrase of the whole New Testament is in John, where a man claims to hold direct claim of divinity by saying, "Before Abraham was, I am." This is a callback of what the angel of the Lord calls himself in the burning bush to Moses. In Exodus 3, Moses is captivated by a bush that is being burned but not consumed, and as he approaches it, he is called by the Lord to save his people from slavery. The voice says, "I have seen the affliction of my people, and heard their cries, and I know their sorrows." And when asked his name, the Lord says, "I am that I am," which deserves its whole video on how powerful and helpful that seemingly confusing answer is. Moving on to number 2, we get to talk about possibly my favorite Old Testament story, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, or the fiery furnace. These 3 men stand up against the idolatry of their time and are thrown into a fiery furnace, and they don't even know if God's going to deliver them or not. One of the bravest verses comes from this: "Our God is able to deliver us, and he will. But if not, O king, know that we will not serve your gods." This is obviously not what the king wants them to hear, so he throws these people into a furnace, which is so hot it consumes the guards who threw them in. However, when the king looks into the fire, instead of seeing the 3 people he originally threw in, he sees 4, and one of them is like the Son of God. This story has inspired a song called "Another in the Fire" that talks about how no matter what we go through, there always will be another standing next to us. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were allowed to see him, but we often think we are going through fire alone, whether it's the angel of the Lord or an angel sent to comfort them. This is still a great reminder to the spiritual realities that surround us in our trials. Now for number 1. I'm sure we all know who Abraham was. He was promised a child for 25 years, and he waited on God's promises, and this is eventually counted to him as righteousness, while it was probably feeling like it was counting him as a fool. Finally, the fruition of his entire life calling by God was coming together and his son was born. He raised his son Isaac, giving great feasts for him, delighting in him as he grew up, and in whom he was probably well pleased. After many years, God visits Abraham and tells him to sacrifice his only son. Now, Abraham knows God has promised him descendants, and the text says that he most likely believed that God will provide a lamb or raise Isaac again or something. But that does not nullify how difficult it must have been to walk up that mountain. Isaac carries the wood, is laid on top of it, and just as he is about to be pierced by the knife, the angel of the Lord appears. "Abraham, Abraham, don't lay your hand on him. I know that you fear God, since you would not withhold your only son from me." The angel shows him a ram to sacrifice instead, and Isaac's descendants are blessed because of this. So by now, I hope you have some idea of who this mysterious person is who keeps showing up in the Old Testament. There are many more sightings that I not have time to cover, like how the first time he appears is to comfort a slave girl, or how the last time he shows up is to take away the filthy clothes of sin and replace them with righteousness. In between all these examples, there are dozens of other instances of him showing up, and he does not always reveal his name. There are even more examples of people who could be him, but we're not sure, like the commander of the Lord's army. We're not really sure who that is. But the angel of the Lord specifically receives worship and sacrifices, which is something regular angels refuse to accept. He speaks on behalf of God, referring to himself as the Lord in many instances. And this person has many titles that have been hinted at from Genesis to the prophets. But we, of course, know him by the name he went by when he took a step beyond appearing like a man. We know Jesus, who hears his people's cries and delivers them from slavery. He is always with us in the fire, even when we can't see him, and he even walked up a mountain as Isaac did, carrying a load of wood. This time, he gave no call to stop and find a replacement, and died for everyone he has ever visited. And he wasn't done visiting. He rose again and visited his friends and family. He showed up to 500 people, and I wonder what their stories are like. He's promised to always be with us, and he has so bound himself to humanity that he says he visits us every time we help someone in need. So the next time you want to put Jesus in a box and think you understand how he works, remember that he's probably up to much more than you can possibly imagine.